On today's episode of Behind the Wire, we're going to be talking about Washington State's proposed income tax. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Behind the Wire on Rebel Radio. I'm your host, Robert Burwell. I'm also the president of the Washington 3%. Today we're going to be talking about Washington State's proposed income tax, which is Senate Bill 5978. It's currently being discussed in both houses right now, and this is basically a income tax on individuals with $1 million or more of income each year. Now, of course, a lot of people out there are cheering this. Yay, we're going to tax the rich people. Well, there's a lot of problems with this bill, so I'm going to go ahead and go over this for you guys real quick on what all these issues are. Starting off, this bill is unconstitutional according to the Washington State Constitution. The Washington State Constitution requires that any taxes must be uniform, which means if you're going to pass an income tax of, say, 5% or whatever, it has to equally apply to everyone in the state. You can't do a graduated tax where you would, like federal income tax is graduated, right? It goes by brackets, tax brackets, right? If you make so much, you only pay this percentage. If you make more, you pay a bigger percentage, so on and so forth, right? That is a graduated tax, okay? This is not a graduated tax. This is not a uniform tax. This is a graduated tax. People making $1 million or more have to pay tax. People who make less don't. That's a graduated tax. That's illegal according to the Washington State Constitution. As a matter of fact, the Washington State Supreme Court in 1933 made a ruling that a graduated tax violates the state constitution that requires that taxes must be uniform. So the Washington State Supreme Court in 1933 said this is illegal to do. Democrats know this. They're going to do it anyway. But that's not the only reason it's illegal in Washington State to have an income tax. A few years ago, both houses of the Congress of Washington State, the Senate and the House, passed Initiative 2111. They approved it. In both houses of the legislature, they approved Initiative 2111, which was an initiative started by the people. They didn't let it go to a vote of the people. Both houses voted to adopt it as law. And this bill states it bans any and all state and local income taxes. Okay, because a few years back, there were a lot of whispers that they wanted to do an income tax. So we circulated a petition. We got enough signatures for it to be on the ballot to outright ban income tax. And both houses knew it was going to pass. It was election year, right? So they wanted to be in the good graces of the voters. So they passed it into law, saying income taxes at a state and local level are illegal in Washington State. And this would obviously violate that because this is an income tax. But, since when has violating the law or the Constitution bothered Democrats in Washington State? It doesn't. They do it all the time, and they'll continue to do it as long as you people keep putting them in office. So that's just one issue with this bill, is the fact that it's illegal two different ways. Two different ways it's illegal. Yet they're still going to try to pass this. And one of the reasons they're not afraid to pass this and violate both the Constitution and the state law is the fact that the Washington State Supreme Court is an activist court that is staffed with Democrats. And they have no problem with violating the state constitution. They have done it numerous times. They uphold anything that the Democrats in Washington pass. It doesn't matter if it violates state law. It doesn't matter if it violates the state constitution. They rubber stamp it and pass it on. They're partisan hacks. And they uphold everything the Democrats do that's illegal. So they're not worried about the state Supreme Court at all. And they're also not worried about the voters because they know the majority of voters in Washington state pay no attention to what they do. Absolutely no attention to what they do. They just go about their merry way, and when it's time to vote, they vote by whatever their feelings say and what the TV tells them and what their little groups at college or their little social circles tell them to do. Oh, we're so caring and feeling. Let's vote for Democrats because they're good people. They tell us all the time they're not going to tax us, and then we get taxed more, but then they say they're not going to tax us, and we keep voting for them because we don't pay attention, and we obviously don't understand the basic rule that insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different outcome. I mean, they just continue to keep voting for these people, so I don't know. Whatever. Continuing on. Other problems with this. Our wonderful governor, Sideshow Bob Ferguson. Remember the guy who campaigned on no new taxes, gonna actually reduce taxes, reduce the budget, get rid of the deficit, and all those wonderful things he promised you when he ran for governor that people who paid any attention to his career knew he wasn't going to do, that he was going to violate, because he always goes against what he says when he campaigns. But, you know, again, low information voters in Washington state voted for this idiot. Anyways, Mr. No New Taxes Ferguson, he approves of this income tax. I guess it's not a new tax, according to him. I don't know how he's doing those mental gymnastics, but, you know, he promised no new taxes, and he's fully supports this. Fully supports this income tax on millionaires. So, you know, maybe you guys should pay attention to what they do instead of what they say. But, you know, that would require effort on your part. And evidently we don't have a lot of effort in this state with the elections we've been having. Another issue with this wonderful tax that they want to pass. Okay, so number one, Democrats, Ferguson, they're all out there telling everybody, you know what, we're going to tax the millionaires. We're going to get those rich people, because that's their favorite thing to tell the mindless minions out there is we're going to go after the rich guys, right? You know, we're battling for you little people against the rich guys. We're going to go after the rich guys, right? They say they're going to tax people who make $1 million or more. That's the only ones they're going to tax. Well, if you know any history about the Democrat Party in Washington state, whenever they introduce any bill on anything, they always start small, selective. We're going after the people who are perceived villains, right? We're just going after them. We're fighting for you. That's how they start. Once they get a law passed, then in later sessions, they expand it and they expand it, and it just creeps, and they make it bigger and bigger and bigger. And what's going to happen to this is once they get their foot in the door on this, and they get their Supreme Court activists to uphold their illegal law, then they'll expand it to everybody. And if you don't believe me, you don't have to listen to me. Let the Democrats themselves tell you. We happened to have an interview a few weeks ago. A Democrat House member, serving member in the House, who's a Democrat, Larry Springer, was on a talk show, and this subject came up. And they asked him, why should people believe you that this tax is not going to be expanded once it passed to encompass everyone? And what was his response? 2 words: you shouldn't. You shouldn't believe them that they're not going to expand the tax to everybody else. He said straight up, that's what they're going to do. History tells us that's what they're going to do. And they're so confident in the low information voters in the state who pay zero attention to what they actually do that he's not afraid to say it out loud. It's like, yeah, we're going to expand it. You know, Specifically, the question was asked if it would be expanded to the rest of us by 2031. And he said, yeah, it will. That's their plan. That's what they do. Like I said, mission creep, right? They introduce it small and expand, expand, expand until it encompasses everybody, and we all end up paying for this. You got all these idiots out there cheering, yay, they're taxing the rich people, they're taxing the rich people. And they're sitting here telling you that they will expand it by 2031 to encompass everybody. And you people are still buying it. You're still buying their BS. They are so confident in the low information voters in this state, voting with the heart instead of paying attention to what actually is going on, that they ain't afraid to tell you straight up they're going to screw you, and you people keep voting for them. It's just insanity. I tell you what. Anyways, another problem with this wonderful bill. People who are going to be most affected by this bill. Sure, you know, the millionaires and the billionaires, they're going to be hit pretty hard by this. This is a 9.9% tax, okay, on people making over $1 million a year. 9.9% tax on $1 million is $99,000 a year they have to pay in taxes. Almost $100,000 in taxes each year. Now, of course, the millionaires and, you know, the multimillionaires and the billionaires, this is going to hit them pretty hard. They should be able to, you know, do a lot of other stuff to save money on taxes in other places. But bottom line, it's already driving a lot of the big money out of the state. Between the B&O tax they passed last year, the head count tax and stuff, a lot of these big companies are relocating their corporate offices to more tax-friendly states. That's going to drag a lot of the billionaires and multimillionaires out of the state to avoid these taxes. You know, these taxes they passed last year are already hurting businesses. A lot of the bigger corporations have moved their corporate functions either completely out of Washington state or greatly reduced staff here and are hiring more people in other states to take up the work that they're giving up in this state to avoid all the taxes, the excessive taxes in Washington state. So big businesses have already been hit last year. This is going to hit the remaining small businesses in the state probably worse than anybody. The reason why it's going to hit small businesses so hard is a small business, you know, they can make $1 million in income during the year, but they have a lot of costs. They have to pay for their, you know, for their location. They have to pay for their equipment. They have to pay for their employees. They have to pay all these other taxes that got dumped on them last year. And then they have to, you know, they're losing $100,000 for every million they make. They're losing $100,000 of that going to the state that could be used for expanding their business and hiring more people or getting better equipment or any of these other things. You know, when they make this income, they don't just stick it in their pocket and go whistling down the road on some vacation. Small businesses use this, any extra money they have, to put back into their business, to expand it, to make it more successful, to make themselves more successful, to be able to hire more people, open more locations. But instead of being able to do that, they have to give that money to the state. They're not going to be able to expand. They're not going to be able to upgrade. They're not going to be able to hire those extra employees because the state is taking that money away from them. And who does that hurt? Number one, it hurts the small businesses. A lot of small businesses are leaving the state if this passes. I know 4 small business owners right now in Washington state who said, this passes, we're closing up, and we're going to move to another state. I know several that already have left the state because of all the B&O tax and everything that hit last year. I mean, that stuff hit them hard enough. This is going to be the straw that broke the camel's back on the rest of them that are in the state. It's going to kill small businesses in this state. It's going to kill them. It's going to wipe them out. But that's, you know, that's the Democrat pattern. I mean, they tax until they economically destroy their state. They run all the businesses out. They kill entrepreneurship with all their taxes. And the state goes bust. I mean, it happens to every blue state. Every blue state does this. They drive all the businesses out. Washington used to be a great state for businesses. Not anymore. It's not business friendly. Nobody's going to move here and open a business here. Businesses are leaving. And the backbone of our economy, which is small businesses, are being devastated by last year's taxes and this proposed millionaires tax. It'll just devastate them. Sheer stupidity. This is how you kill your economy. It's with your taxes. And what really, really gets me is all you low information voters out there who are cheering on all these taxes they're putting on businesses. How stupid are you? Do you really think that all these taxes that are being passed against businesses and rich people in Washington State, you really think that's a good thing, don't you? Oh, we're getting the rich people. Yay for us. You know, you guys just supposedly say you're all for affordability and all this other thing. What do you think happens to affordability when businesses get taxed? What do you think happens? Do you think those businesses eat those taxes and just say, fine, we'll eat those taxes and keep charging you the same amount we were charging? No, they don't. They pass that on to the consumer. Any tax against businesses gets passed on to the consumer. The businesses do not eat that. They pass that on to you with higher prices. Okay? We got this stupid climate tax, which taxes energy for these carbon credits in order to convince these so-called polluters to reduce their carbon emissions, right? They have to buy taxes based on how much carbon. They have to pay so much for how much carbon they put out. Do you think they're eating that? Do you think they're going to lower their carbon output? No, they're passing that on to you. Don't believe me? Look at the price of gas in Washington compared to the rest of the country. That's carbon tax related. They're not eating that. They're not reducing emissions. They're passing that on to your dumbass that voted for it. Whining about your power bill keeps going up and up and up. That's because the utilities are being charged the same carbon tax. And are they eating that carbon tax? No. Are they reducing emissions? No. They're passing it on to you, the consumer. That's why your power is not affordable. Your gas isn't affordable. Your power isn't affordable because the stuff you voted for. More examples. Everybody whines about the, affordable housing. There's no affordable housing in Washington State. Can't find any place cheap to live. There's a reason a 2-bedroom apartment costs $2,700 a month in Washington State. Because you people, and it's mostly lower income people who rent and stuff, are the ones who cheered on the raising property taxes, raising property taxes on these greedy property owners that are charging me so much rent. What do you think happens when they tax them more for the property? Do you think they're going to eat that tax increase? They're not. They're going to raise your rent. Whine and snivel about you can't find an apartment that's affordable in Washington. That's because you voted for the people that are taxing the landlords. Landlords aren't going to eat that. They're going to pass it on to you. It's basic economics, people. For God's sake, take an economic class. Pay attention. The reason Washington's not affordable isn't because of greedy rich people. It's because you keep putting idiots in office who are taxing the people that own everything, and they're passing it on to your dumbass that voted for them. And our education system, for God's sake, teach these kids about basic economics and how things work. Instead of teaching them to be freaking social justice warriors, how about you teach them what life's about? So they quit voting for these morons that are taxing us into oblivion. It's common sense for anybody that has any common sense. But nobody has common sense anymore, I guess. They're too busy, worrying about this bullshit over here, about all this gender crap and, tyranny and all this garbage. The tyranny is being taxed into oblivion and out of being able to afford to live. That's tyranny. Making it so expensive that you can't get ahead in life. That's Democrats. Look at red states. Way cheaper to live than blue states. Way cheaper. The people in blue states, they're so convinced with their, I don't know, their own moral high ground on things instead of common sense that they keep voting for the people who are bending them over. They just keep doing it. It's just insane. But anyways, this is a god-awful terrible bill. And if you think it's a good idea, you're dumb. I mean, you know, every time you cheer taxing rich people, you're the one that's going to eat it, not them. It's going to drive businesses out of here. It's going to devastate small businesses, which are the backbone of our economy. And it'll eventually be passed on to you. And, but like I said, if, you know, you have a shred of common sense, contact these people and tell them this is unacceptable. Because it is. It's going to be like the final nail in the coffin of Washington State. That's all I have on this subject. I'm not going to do the prepping thing today. I just want to get this video out here. It's already getting too long. Don't want to make it any longer. Just like to remind you that if you are interested in who we are, what we stand for, what we believe, go to our website at www.wa3percent.org. That's WA3percent.org. You can also check out our charity there, Boots on the Home Ground, all volunteer organization. Every penny we raise goes to help those in need. And you can read all about us there and our charity on our website. The Boots on the Home Ground is BOTHG.org. That is the website for that. We do accept donations. The more we can get, the more we can help people. Donations can be a one-time donation, or you can set up a small monthly donation. That would really help us help people. And with that, that's all I have for tonight. See you next time on Rebel Radio Behind the Wire. Good night.